it is about that authentic experience. It brings credibility and it shows that not only has this customer achieved this, that, and the other and made this impact, but you are a partner to that customer. You're listening to them you're with them through the good and the bad. They think, oh no, we've asked them to do a case study, we need to leave them alone for a year. Actually, no, if they do like 3 or 4 things at one time, they're kind of happy to do that because they're primed. They have their story written. We have this deck, like we want to show it off, etc. Don't just make it all about you having this many pieces of content or you having this many advocates on your list, because nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about that in your organization, honestly.
So I'm so excited to have Stephanie, the founder of Spark Marketing, on today to talk all things customer content and customer marketing. I learned so much from our conversation and I'm so excited to dive in. Stephanie, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Do you have any examples of signals that customers might be sending that you can pick up on and know that there might be an advocacy opportunity there?
You have to constantly have in place programs that will allow you to pick up the signals, first of all. For instance, if you decide you're going to launch a customer rewards program, that obviously anybody filling out that form, that's a clear signal that they are really good example of an advocate. They want to win this award. They want to showcase their story. So they're perfect hand raiser. Also, you'll probably have some customers who will talk to their account teams just in general catch-up calls, and they'll say things like, hey, we really love, to showcase this story. The best thing you can do at that point is get in front of that customer as soon as possible. Because if you don't and you let that opportunity kind of go cold, they might be busy, they might go on vacation, they might leave their company, that sort of thing. So you need to really have a strong process in place from getting those signals and then getting in front of the customer. And also things like reviews as well. If somebody leaves a really good review, that's an excellent signal. And conversely, if someone leaves a bad review, that's a really good time to get in contact with them, because I have known lots of advocates over the years who started off with bad feedback and bad experiences. They become the strongest advocates that you can have because you let them have a voice. You listened to them. You did something about it. Might not have solved 100% of the problem for whatever reason, but if you can get in touch with those people, they're often the best spokespeople for your brand.
Does it almost not matter as much if the feedback is positive or negative? Is it more about finding people who actually want to provide the feedback?
I would say that is so true, is finding the people first of all. The problem comes when you're on a deadline. So of course, if you have targets as a customer marketing or customer advocacy manager, you need to get 50 stories, however many advocates in the program, engagement rates and things like that. Obviously, if you're spending time solving problems, converting advocates who are perhaps not signaling really good things from the beginning, that will take time and that's going to slow you down. So you do need probably more people who are signaling, yeah, I'm really happy, I want to talk, because they're already sort of primed and ready.
You mentioned you have to kind of fulfill a short-term need for case studies or customer stories, but what are you looking at ideally? What are you looking at long-term?
In the long term, you want to have a really long list of customers that you can always go back to whenever there are opportunities, speaking engagements, anything like that, PR, could be anything. And you want to be able to go to that list and just pick and choose who's the most appropriate. What you'll often find when you first go into an organization is the list is quite small because there's been no one there to nurture it. So what will happen is these people are getting burned out because they are always the people that get picked for every single opportunity. So the long term is you go and you've got an absolute plethora of people to work from. So not only are you leaving people alone and not always going to them, but you're finding diverse voices amongst your customers as well. So it's not always that same person, same message, same industry, etc. And you want to be kind of getting them into engagement cycles. That's what I like to call them. So when somebody's maybe doing a case study, that turns into a speaking engagement, which then turns into maybe a video testimonial whilst you're at the event, or, they actually really like to do lots of things in kind of this cycle and then maybe be left alone for a bit, which is really kind of at odds with what people normally think. They think, oh no, we've asked them to do a case study, we need to leave them alone for a year. Actually, no, if they do like 3 or 4 things at one time, they're kind of happy to do that because they're primed. They have their story written. We have this deck, like we want to show it off, etc. So for me, the long-term strategy is to have this, again, like a big pool, and constantly have people in these advocacy cycles so that you're always bringing through and nurturing diverse voices.
Can you talk about how that kind of fills your marketing initiatives with diverse content?
You just never know what's going to come up over a year. Unfortunately, you would love to be able to have a calendar, right? We'd love to, in marketing, have a calendar for the year ahead with every single engagement that's going to happen. And to a certain degree, that can be the case. Like, you know that your company might always go to this one massive partner event, and you normally have 4 speaking engagements at that event. So definitely be thinking of that from, the year before, for instance. But there will also be other things, right? Those smaller engagements that pop up and might have a really short deadline, they're where you start to introduce your lesser known advocates, right? Give them a chance. The people that have raised their hand but haven't yet been able to match them to an opportunity. I love doing that because they're the ones that surprise you sometimes. And often you just need to give them the stage and you'll find out. We had one advocate, he got in front of the stage basically at a huge conference. And he told the story of how he ran a marathon and lost like 150 pounds, all because of this amazing product. And everyone was just blown away. They're the stories that get into people's mind. It's not often the slide with the picture of the product doing this, that, and the other. That's the one that people walk away and really remember. And it's finding those diverse human voices that is the absolute joy of this job.
I want to tie that back to something earlier you were saying about sometimes customers who may not have had the best experience at first. That's still an authentic experience. And I wonder how you navigate promoting those authentic experiences, which might not always be 100% positive. So maybe leadership isn't always going to be so excited to have those out there. But how do you kind of balance that authenticity with, you still have to make your product or service look good? So how do you keep that kind of balance?
So I am a product marketer's nightmare because I will get on calls with an advocate and we're priming them for an event. So we've invited them to come and do a speaking engagement, and the product marketer will be there. And I will always ask, hey, can you give us any feedback where we could have done better? Is there anything about the product that we're working on right now that you really think needs? And the product marketer is like, face palm, like, oh my God, why did you say that? I will advise that we should use that within the presentation at the event. And we have done this. And the reason, again, is it is about that authentic experience. It brings credibility and it shows that not only has this customer achieved this, that, and the other and made this impact, but you are a partner to that customer. You're listening to them you're with them through the good and the bad, and you're helping, and they're also helping to make the product better as a result. And it has worked, where customers have got up and they've said, we're working on this thing with the vendor right now, and it's really great to see them listening to us. And people sit up and listen to that. They're like, wow, this company actually cares. And I think that's important to show.
It's going to be a good thing in the long run, even though there might be some pain in the short term.
Yeah, exactly.
That product marketer. For someone who's starting off, you mentioned having that list of potential customer advocates. Maybe to kind of take me through next steps of building that system.
So having the list, first of all, you might have the advocate and their title, kind of some opportunities that they've participated in, just all these different things kind of clearly labeled. And then you sort of start to score them almost as well. Like I've put a kind of engagement score in place in my last role, almost like a heat map. Right? So who's in an advocacy cycle right now? Who haven't we spoken to for a really long time? And that then really quickly allowed me, when there were opportunities that I was planning ahead for, to see this would be a good way to bring this person in. There are some really great tools out there as well that do this for you.
When you're talking about score, is that how excited they are about your product or how willing they might be to do an interview?
Yeah. So when you have your list, you might have it filtered by some objective things like their job title, the industry that they're in. But then you also might have some subjective things, which really only you know about that person. So, for instance, you could score them on their ability to present. Now, this is obviously subjective, but it's okay to do that as a customer marketer and as a customer advocacy person to kind of say, right, this person scores 6 out of 10 for presenting, but they're excellent at presenting really technical concepts. And then you could score them as to how many opportunities they'd actually participated in over the last year as well. So that also gave me kind of a bit of a hint as to how, I guess, engaged they were and motivated to do some of these things. So there's lots of different things that you can kind of score them on to get a good feel for the person, and then be able to match them to opportunities a lot quicker than if you're just looking at a list of names. Because what the rest of the marketing team will do is they'll give you this list of like, we need them to be in the manufacturing industry and they need to live here and they need to have a dog called Bailey and they need to do this. And you're just like, well, we're probably not going to find that unicorn. So you need your scoring mechanisms in place to say, okay, well, we don't have this person in manufacturing with the dog called Bailey, but we do have this person who would be perfect. And that's another example of how you bring through the diverse voices.
Do customers' motivations play a part in that score as well?
So if you have a tool that actually profiles them when they join your advocacy program and you ask them, what kind of opportunities are you actually interested in? So this advocate might say, I'm happy to do speaking engagements, but I'm not allowed to do PR. Now that is very much cut and dry. They know they can't, they're restricted. But then another advocate might say they're quite interested in PR. They might not necessarily be the right person for that, but again, their motivations are important in this, because then first of all, whether they're going to be comfortable in front of a large audience, or whether it's a case of that you're never ever going to get that through their marketing team. And those things are all important, because again, if you're wasting time with someone that knows that this is going to get, you might interview me and then we're going to get to my marketing team and they're going to go, absolutely not. You're kind of wasting time, aren't you? So it's good to know that as well.
So we have this list of customers. We kind of give them advocacy scores. We've matched opportunities with different types of customers. So now you have a good flywheel of customer marketing that's producing content, speaking opportunities, webinars, etc. How are you measuring success and how are you tweaking your flywheel as you go forward?
I think in terms of measuring success, you have to work with your satellite teams and have shared measures of success, first of all. So if they're looking for types of customer content, then understand how they measure the success of the thing that they're doing. So for instance, if your team that sends out your nurture emails say to you, hey, we just don't really feature the customer very much. I'd love to get some voice of the customer content in these emails because we find that they convert faster. I'll say, oh, what does that mean? What do you mean by that? And they'll be like, well, the voice of the customer emails tend to have a click rate that's a lot higher, percentage higher than other emails. We always find that they click through, or we always find that they download the information. So there you go. There's a shared success measurement, if you like. Or they may not have said the ones with the customer content in. They may say this type of email does this. So you're like, that's what I want the customer content emails to do. Like, so how do we get there? Don't just make it all about you having this many pieces of content or you having this many advocates on your list, because nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about that in your organization, honestly, because it's not going anywhere. First of all, speaking to your marketing teams about how they measure success and trying to make sure that you align with that, and checking back with the teams, obviously. So getting a commitment from them. Hey, if we're going to work together and I'm going to provide this content for you, how are you then going to check back in with me and show me what it's doing, if it's doing well, if it's doing bad, how we need to optimize.
That's great. Yeah, I find that the customer marketing team really has to interact with all these different teams within the organization. So they have to kind of keep track, just like they're keeping track of their customers, they need to keep track of their internal customers as well. Do you think it's more of an art or a science matching, the format and the content to those opportunities? Do you just know because of your experience, like this will go good in this email, this will go good on this website page? Or is there systems you can put in place to, accelerate that fulfillment?
That is such a good question. I think it's just constantly being curious about the world outside of your lane. I think I've been so fixated on the past and like how many stories, how many advocates, the engagement rate of just this one program, when actually the last few years, and obviously like running my own agency now, I'm much more interested in, well, how are you actually going to measure this? Where are you going to use these stories? And that's what excites me about them. So for me, the measure of success is the number of opportunities where we've been able to atomize that story and use it. And then obviously the success measures of those, but the skill of kind of changing the story to suit each channel, you do have to work with the expert in play there. These channels are always changing. Social media now looks completely different to what it did 5 years ago. I mean, I used to write 3 tweets, 3 LinkedIn posts, 3 Facebook posts with each story, right? And they all sounded kind of the same, but it was just the word count that was different. Whereas now, it's these are the best practices for subject lines. These are the best practices for this. It's infinite. It's exciting, but definitely ask the SMEs in those areas.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I think that's a great place to wrap up. I've learned so much from our conversation, and it's got me so excited about advocacy and customer content. It's just super exciting. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Alex, thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure. I'm so excited to have been here. Thank you so much for having me today.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of StoryProof. The goal is that there are tactics or strategies you can use right away in your customer marketing. And speaking of customer marketing, that's where we come in. We turn customer love into effective video stories that can be easily repurposed into sales and marketing efforts. So if you'd like to learn more, check out our website or shoot me a message. Thanks.